Week 4, faith tour. Let's chat about it.
Okay, I am on the way to week 4 of this faith tour. I can't believe it's already been 4 weeks since I committed to visiting a church, a temple, a mosque, some sort of spiritual gathering that will help me deepen my understanding and intimacy with God. And I was just on a hike yesterday with my friends, and we were talking about this faith tour, and I was just recapping on my relationship with the spiritual masculine and how my relationship with spirituality has felt very chaotic because I have only had a connection to the feminine when it comes to spirituality. And if you know anything about masculine and feminine energies, you know that the feminine is very chaotic. So I'm starting to feel way more grounded, way more supported. Miracles are happening left and right. And today I'm going to this new church, which is, I believe, a non-denominational church. I'm not really sure. My friend just suggested that I go. So that is where we're headed.
We don't want to be the kind of believers who like some of his truth and will incorporate it when it applies to our truth. We want to surrender to his truth. He says, you know what I'm going to do? If you really still love the law.
Okay, I'm going to be super honest. That was a little intense. There was a time in the middle of the church that I wanted to pick up all my stuff up and run out the door, but I'm going to tell you why.
This week I went to Beacon Church, which I thought was a non-denominational church, but actually was deeply a Christian church. And I'm going to share my experience, and I'm just going to first preface this by saying this has nothing to do with the church itself, but rather my experience and what it is that I'm moving through on this faith tour. This series is for me to share the rawest, the most truest thoughts, expressions, experiences that happen as I'm on this faith tour. So let me just first start by saying that Beacon Church was the friendliest church that I've been to up to this point in the faith tour. From the minute I got there, I was greeted, I was asked my name, there was conversations that happened. They had a really cool, I think they called it the Bible bar. But it was like coffees and snacks and all of that stuff. And as I went up to go explore and just see what the whole experience was about, one of the ladies was like, "You're back." And I was like, "I'm not back. I mean, huh?" And so she thought I was someone else, but it just was a really cool, I feel, experience for the fact that I'm spiritually back, right? I've been consistently doing this for 4 weeks and being on this tour. But she was super cool. Like, the ladies that were there were amazing. And I ended up connecting with this woman because they thought that I was the friend of this woman. And as I met this woman, it was her second time going to this church, and she was going through a recovery program. She'd been in recovery for about 1.5 years. And she was still exploring her faith, and she didn't really know where her faith stands. She knows that she experienced a beautiful experience the time she was there before. And now she's just on exploration. So we connected. We had really beautiful conversation with her and then another woman that she met about just like spirituality in general. And I thought it was really cool to just be witnessed and to feel someone else on this journey with me. So it's really cool. She's going to come to the Hare Krishna temple that I'm going to in 2 weeks with me because she wants to explore that as well, which I feel is going to be so cool. So not only do I get to do this myself, but I'm bringing people on a journey alongside me, or I'm, through what I'm doing, inspiring other people to experience what they feel called to. So that was awesome. The other lady had been going to Beacon for a while, and she was still open to hearing about my experience. There was no projections about what I should be doing or who I should be following. So it felt very open as a Christian church. The vibe there was epic. Like, the band that played was amazing. The pastor, he had energy and life flowing through him, very animated, was very engaged with the way that he spoke and preached the sermon. I think that's what you call it. The overall vibe. If you are in Christianity or you connect with Christianity, I would say it was dope. For me, there was a lot of contraction and resistance that came up as I was in this experience. First things first is that I'm going to be referencing my notes, by the way, because I have a lot to say, and I also have a lot that I don't really understand that I needed clarity on that I got after with those two women who I met. The whole sermon was about truth being black and white, and that there is no gray area with God. With this, I questioned it because it was saying that it's either you do it this way or you're all in or you're not. What I was questioning with there's only black and white, there is no gray area, is like, I feel like life is a gray area. And as I'm on this faith tour and I'm really bringing in things that I feel resonate deeply with me, they were challenging me to say that you can't just like cafeteria pick the things that you like, but I have found that that's been working for me, that I resonate with this, I don't resonate with this. And in that, I feel there's a spiritual discernment. In my journey up to this point in religion, it has been show up, believe what we tell you, and don't question it. That was what we did in the Catholic Church. But I like that journey that I'm on because I'm getting to question what I'm being told and taught and answer with discernment. I'm building spiritual sovereignty so I know what feels best for me and what speaks through me, because what they're speaking might not be in resonance to how God speaks to me specifically. I wasn't sure I agreed with that. I'm still exploring. And of course, this is literally just every video is me developing a deeper, intimate relationship with God. So who knows, what I speak as truth on these videos or what I speak as questions on these videos isn't necessarily where I land, but really where I'm exploring. So this church really heavily spoke to Jesus. And I was lost in the sermon. He was speaking to, I didn't even take the notes on it because I wasn't even sure. But they were speaking to something in the Bible. Maybe I actually videoed it. I'm not sure. So I might plug it in here. If not, then I don't know what to tell you. But they were speaking about Jesus a lot. And again, while I told you I went to Catholic church, I feel that there's a massive resistance towards Jesus. And I don't know why the resistance is there. I know that I didn't even, I guess, know what the role of Jesus is. And so as I had a conversation with these women afterwards, and I kind of took notes through, is like Jesus being the Messiah, the chosen one, and him being an archetype for us to live through or to understand as he was put here on this planet to experience the non-holiness of life and earthly things, and for us to connect through him. So I don't know. And I'm going to look deeper into it. But the overall, like, really Christianity experience, I'm going to be honest, I wanted to pick up my stuff and run out of the auditorium at one point because I couldn't follow. It wasn't resonating. I felt like there was resistance. And as I was noticing that resistance and all these guards and shields going up, I just kept breathing to open to receive what I needed to receive. Because if I'm in resistance and I'm saying, no, you're wrong, I'm not going to be able to receive a message that is for me or be able to have discernment as to, like, does this feel right and in resonance to me? So I had to continue to open, and then I would close, and then I would open, and then I would close. So it was like fear, love, the whole entire church experience. Then where I fell into massive contraction, that's I think when I wanted to like run up and leave the church, is they did these little like pods that I think had held the wine and the bread, to break bread, right, with Jesus. They passed them around, and when they gave it to me, I was like, oh no. So I passed it to my neighbor, or the girl that was sitting next to me, and I didn't take the wine or have the bread because I felt so much resistance and so much contraction in my body. I was like, what is happening? I think because my Catholic church, you could not take the wine or the bread if you didn't have your communion, I think. And if you hadn't been going to church and you were a sinner, you had to go to confession first before you got the bread and the wine. And so everything within me was like, I don't belong to this church. Why am I taking this bread? I'm acting as a fraud because I don't even know. I'm feeling all this contraction with Jesus. Like no. So I didn't take it. And I just sat there and allowed everyone to have their experience. And I think that's something that I felt that was really empowering, is that I can go to these places and try on things that I feel called to and say no to the things that I don't, because I felt afterwards there was a little sense of shame. Like, what is the person next to me going to think? What is like God gonna think because I didn't take the wine and the bread? And I just let go of all of that shame, and I just allowed myself to be present with my experience and accepting of my experience, and to have the spiritual discernment. Because I feel that a lot of people in society don't practice discernment. They take what they're told and they practice it even if it's not in resonance to them. And again, that's where my spiritual journey has been. Go into the Catholic Church, sit in the pew, listen to the priest, and this is your faith. And so it was like, yes, sir, I believe, type energy. And now I get to say, like, I don't know if I believe in that. I don't know if that's in resonance to my journey. And my friend always told me that God will speak to you in a way that you can understand. And so I was really trying to understand what he was talking about today. Didn't get all the pieces, so I don't have a lot of like really massive breakthroughs that came through that I can share with you like I did last week, but I'm just taking note of it. Then he was talking about the enemy and the devil. And I just listened to an excerpt from A Course in Miracles, which I've been telling you about on this journey. It's a spiritual text, but not a religious text, that really anchors into love. And she was talking about how there is no like devil outside of you. There's a lot of dark thoughts that can happen within your ego, and it's up to you to change and shift and to dissolve and resolve them, right? And you can use God to hand that over and to pray and to ask for them to be released from you. I'm not sure I believe in the enemy. I'm not sure I believe in the devil, because I haven't experienced anything that would give me an understanding to believe in this. It didn't resonate with me. Every time someone says it, the enemy comes. To me, I think of it as like the enemy is something outside of you that you can't control. However, I believe that any darkness is within you is your shadow. And one of the songs they were speaking about was talking about how we hate the darkness. And it literally said, like, we hate the darkness. And everything in me was like, no, we don't hate the darkness. Like, without darkness, we wouldn't know light. Without the polarity of the darkness, we wouldn't be able to access the levels of joy and bliss and pleasure like we're able to when we know the darkness. If I didn't know this valley right now where I'm in pain and hurt and challenge or temptation, I wouldn't know what it would feel like to feel liberation, to feel freedom, right? So I didn't like how they said that. And then there was a song that said like, I am unworthy and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm not unworthy. I was just having a whole experience feeling like I'm worthy. And the song was like having the audience sing about being unworthy. I'm like, I'm not sure. So I'm like really being present with like little words, ways in which they're talking, speaking, guiding, leading, because this is my journey to really have that discernment, to really understand what it is that I feel most connection to God. The other piece that I felt was there was resistance is like when people talk about being in obedience with God, there's still contraction within me too, to like sit down and be obedient. It feels very submissive, which in the masculine feminine, I do believe in like the feminine being a little bit more submissive. However, I think of like obedience as like sit down, be quiet, do what I tell you. You have no say, and this is what is right and this is what is wrong. I don't believe there's like a right or wrong. There's something that you're guided to learn a lesson, to then be able to say, okay, that didn't work. Let me forgive myself or the person, or ask for forgiveness, and then let me move on. But the whole idea of like sin and obedience feels like there's shame put into the religious teachings. And again, this is just my beliefs and how I feel about it. And it doesn't mean that it's the truth. It just means that's where I'm sitting now. And every place that I feel resistance, every place that I feel contraction, I'm opening to explore it deeper. I'm not just saying, oh, I feel contraction, never mind. Oh, I feel contraction, that's not right. It's like, I feel contraction, and let me get curious as to why I'm feeling this resistance and this contraction. So overall, the Bible talk and the Jesus talk did not resonate with me. I don't know if like a full Christian structure is for me. Like I told you before, I'm not really on this journey or on this tour to find religion. I'm on this tour to feel God in a way that feels like an intimate, personal relationship with me. So it was cool to go and explore this experience. However, I know that religion is not for me. I'm very clear on that. I don't like these constructs of this is what we've built and you must stay in these parameters. And if you go anything outside of that, then you are sinning and you are wrong and you need to obey. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel good. So that's where I'm at right now. And that's my honest expression. But what I did get from this was the fact that this is a good one. This is a good one. God takes his time, but God is always on time. God takes his time, but God is always on time. And so what I've been battling with a lot recently is that I want things and I want them now. Give it to me now. And if it doesn't come now, within the next day, month, couple months, even year, that there's a frustration, there's an anger, there's an impatience, because I know what I'm capable of. I know what my life gets to be like. I have a vision that feels so deeply rooted and embodied in myself that I want it now. And he was speaking about how a lot of times we want things at our own human timeline. But if we get them in our own human timeline, a lot of times we won't feel ready. Let me explain this. I used to know this man who was a gem of a man. This was back in 2017 when I was in the bodybuilding world. And he was super present. He was really forward with how he adored me and just like was clear that he wanted to be with me. We had built a friendship over like a year, and then he wanted to move it into an intimate partnership. And during that time, my energy only desired men that were like these bad boy men, right? But deep down, I knew I wanted a man that was present, conscious, career driven, loved fun, creativity, art, like all the things that I desire in a man now. Respected me, loved me, was present with me, wanted to spend time with me. And he was all of those things. And I kept playing this like, I want you, I don't want you, I want you, I don't want you energy with him. And with that I want you, I don't want you energy, it was very wishy-washy. He was super clear. He knew what he wanted. He was like, it's yes or no. I guess there was a black and white with him. Because of the trauma that I still held, because of the lack of worthiness, I was like, why are you so into me? That's kind of weird. Like, I'm kind of turned on, but I'm kind of turned off. I'm not really sure. And eventually he ended up calling me Katy Perry, hot and cold, yes and no, in and out. Like, it was the man that I deeply desire now, but years too early. Like 6 years too early. I couldn't receive him. I wasn't ready. I needed more lessons. I needed more wisdom. I needed more healing to be able to receive him. And unfortunately, he is no longer with us in this world. So I couldn't go back and even be with him. But it was just a really powerful example of what's available. I'm going to get teary eyes. what's available for me and what's available for love in this world. But it was an example of God takes his time, but God is on time. I wanted that partnership so bad, but when it comes too early, you might not be ready for it. You might want the business, but if it comes too early, you might not have the systems, the structures, the leadership skills to hold all of that. So he doesn't want you to lose it, right? So that was like, okay, God takes his time, but God is always on time, right? If you receive it too early, it's like, damn, I wish I would have had that a couple years from now. So that was really powerful. I was able to get like some nuggets through the biblical talk, because a lot of the biblical talk I didn't understand. It was like from, I couldn't even tell you what it was from. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. I was just like so shook. Instead of trying to take matters into your own hands and to control it and to say that you want it now because that's what your human thinks and that's the timeline that your human desires it to come into your life, can you allow yourself to not take matters into your own hands, but allow your matters to be put into God's hands? And that's really what I'm practicing right now, is I'm handing it all over to God. I'm trusting that in divine timing, I get what I deeply desire. I'm trusting that if I get out of the way, if my ego and human gets out of the way, then miracles and opportunities and possibilities and potential is limitless. My human sees as what I desire is probably not even a fraction of what God can allow me to have as a life and as a purpose and as a vision and all of that stuff. So then he went on to say that a life where you just decide to hand it all over to God rather than you trying to control and manipulate and to strong arm your reality ends up being a more fruitful, plentiful life. But a life lived by faith is scary. It's to say, okay, I have these plans, but I'm going to trust that you have something greater than me. And it doesn't mean don't take action. That's where I was getting tripped up in this, because I'm like, but I still need to do something. I still need to put content out. I still need to tell you what my gifts are. I still need to create what comes through to me as a channel, as a download, in order to then make the impact that I desire, in order to then be the leader and mentor that I know I'm supposed to be, right? Same thing with a partner. It's probably 9 times out of 10 to sit inside of my house and go nowhere and to hope that I meet my divine partner, my soulmate, is 9 times out of 10, I mean, there could be a time where your friend texts you and wants to introduce you to her partner's friend, or the mailman could come knock on your door if that's what you're into, or you never know, right? There is that 1 out of 10 chance, but typically you need to get out into the world to meet people to then run into your soulmate, your divine partner, your significant other. So it's handing it over to God, taking action, and then surrendering. If I don't get the outcome that I'm expecting, that's okay. So it's releasing expectations, taking action and continuing to take action and continuing to take action without expectations, without thinking that it needs to be a specific way, that you need to have a specific outcome, right? So handing it all over to God is like a surrender. I used to think surrender, but I never could really viscerally feel surrender. I logically understood surrender, like, okay, I get it, hand it all over. But what the does that mean? It's a visceral understanding of like, I'm handing this all over to you. I'm taking the matters out of my own hands. I'm getting out of the way so that way you can work your magic and create miracles in my life that I never even knew was possible. And as I'm doing this, I'm starting to see the most wild miracles come through in my life, like opportunities that I've dreamt of that are coming quicker than I could have ever imagined, that are coming quicker than anything I've ever received. And so when you get out of your own way and you're like, okay, I'm handing over to source, God, universe, whatever it may be, things happen. Things happen. Overall, that's what I got for you. The religious conversations scared me. I wanted to run out of the auditorium. I felt contraction with breaking the bread and drinking the wine. I felt like there was a lot that he was talking about with like rules. I think is it like the 10 Commandments, where you're like, thou shalt not cuss, thou shalt not drink, thou shalt not have sex before marriage, like all of these rules. And I think I don't know the true belief that happens there. He referenced it a little bit, but I think he was talking about like, that's not, when you only go by the rules, you're trying to control and fit yourself in this box. But If you just allow God to work through you and move through you, then you're naturally going to evolve into the highest version of yourself. I don't believe in all those laws and those rules. I believe that everyone has their own path, and any rules feels like there's like shame behind them or like too much structure. I don't know. So don't have a lot that came from today other than there's a lot of contraction when it comes to Christianity and religion, and that's okay. And I can continue to explore it, and I can be open to what I'm receiving. But after the church, I ended up having a conversation with those two women who I met at the beginning. Beautiful souls. Again, one had been going there for a long time. One had this was her second time going. They met each other last time. And then we were like just walking down the street and like having a beautiful conversation. And I was just learning more about just Jesus and what that means. Because I went to Catholic school, but again, I can't tell you a single thing that happened in the Bible. We had a beautiful conversation, and it was just about really feeling into what faith and spirituality means to each individual person, and how they were talking about there is no black and white, but I believe that within every person there are blacks and whites. There's questions, there's different ways in which we believe. That's why there's different types of churches, different interpretations of the Bible, different religions that speak to different cultures, different cultural practices, different spiritual practices. And that's what I'm really feeling is coming through, is I'm creating my own relationship with the masculine spirituality outside of a religious construct. I don't desire to be a part of a religion. I desire to be connected to God and how that feels for me. And that's what's becoming really clear. At the month mark, I'm clear that it's not a religion I'm seeking. It's not a specific structure that I'm trying to go find God in. It's really about, can I feel God in my day to day? And can I learn more about these spiritual teachings so I can understand how I'm living on this earth as a human? So this one feels really scattered. This one feels like I didn't have a wild revelation, but I did learn a little bit more about, I guess, Christianity, about my, that I don't desire to be part of religion, that I still have a lot of powerful practices in the Buddhist teachings and the Hindu teachings, and I'm developing a new relationship with God. So stay tuned. Next week, we are hosting our psilocybin psychedelic mushroom therapy ceremony in Los Angeles. So I won't be visiting a spiritual structure, but I feel like I will record the journey, because that in itself is a spiritual gathering. That in itself is where I feel most connected to God. That's where I feel my gifts most. That's where I feel most alive. And so I will record, not the actual ceremony itself, but pre-ceremony, integration, and then I'll sit down and do a conversation with you as well. So stay tuned for that. And then the week after that, I'm planning to go to the Hare Krishna temple, and then probably a Buddhist temple after that. So it's just going to get juicier. I'm so excited. And thank you for just allowing me to be raw, to be real, to be vulnerable, and to just question things that I'm hearing, that I'm learning, that I'm understanding. And I think why this feels really scattered is because I'm deeper into this journey. I'm deeper into the exploration. So I haven't developed like a full synopsis of my faith, but rather just surrendering here and knowing that everything's going to reveal itself to me as it should. Okay, so I didn't realize there would be a part 2 coming from this. It's golden hour. The light is shining. I see the light. Anyways, I didn't realize, I guess I'll just speak with it. You can totally see my phone on its tripod here. I didn't quite feel nourished or connected to God from today's spiritual experience. And so I was going to talk to Instagram, and I was trying to look through YouTube to give them the link so I could start to share more of this journey with Instagram. And as I got onto YouTube, the live stream of Agape Spiritual Center was at the very top of my page, which is the church that I went to last week, which is Reverend Michael Beckwith's church. And I remember that today was his birthday celebration. And so I knew that the experience was going to be very special. And I actually felt like I got more out of that experience virtually than I did at the actual experience at Beacon Church. And again, I feel like I didn't get as much out of it because there was resistance. And every time I would close, I would try to open back up again to receive the message and try to open to receive God. But I just felt like it wasn't happening. And I could have got frustrated or forcefully tried to do something, but I just surrendered and said, this is my experience and that's okay. So when I was watching the live stream, so I basically watched 2 churches today, the live stream of Agape Spiritual Center, I just felt so much more home. And I don't know if it's because I consistently went there when I was building spirituality, but his sermon or his conversation today was about you have been summoned. You have been summoned to move towards love, to move towards more of your purpose, to lead your purpose from love. And so throughout the conversation, I'm just going to give you pretty small cliff notes because you already know what Agape Spiritual Center is about. If not, you can go ahead and watch the video that I posted last week. But he was talking about this thing about the void and about need and about our human desire to always want more. And he said that need actually is an alarm system to tell us that something within us gets to be activated. Rather than needing the thing that you think you want outside of you, how can you activate what that is trying to nourish that's already happening within you? And he talks about the void, which I feel like he answered a question that I had in this exact video about the devil. So I think I was guided to watch this service because I had an answered that I felt in resistance to, which was the enemy or the devil. Michael Beckwith brings up something. He talks about that there is no devil because there is no opposite of God. And the only dark thoughts that transpire are that of the shadow of the ego. And so he goes and talks about how you've been summoned to lead from love, how you've been summoned to not let fear stop you or your crippling beliefs, your limiting beliefs stop you, but you've been summoned into love. You've been summoned through God to be the healer, to leave a contribution to this world, whatever that is. It looks really different for everyone when you're walking on purpose. And one thing that I thought was really powerful is he said that a human can't heal another human. And this was really beautiful and really illuminating because I feel that there's a lot of coaches that take on this superhero effect where they think that they have healed the client or that they've been the reason why the client has had success. But that's a very ego-driven way of leadership. And Michael Beckwith talks about how one human cannot heal another human unless the human has been illuminated and therefore has opened to receive truth, receive God, receive source, and is just the conduit or the vessel for which God speaks. And you are the vessel for that message or that healing or that person. And that's always what I've stood for. I've never really known how to put words to it. But every time my client said, thank you so much, you've helped me so much, you've changed my life, I will always say, it's not me, it's you. You showed up and did the work. And now ultimately, when I know I give the best messages and I share from the most potent place, it's when I'm not in control. I'm not in my head thinking about what I'm going to say next. It's just flowing through me as I am just open to consciousness coming through. And I'm just the conduit for that message. So that was really cool that you've been summoned to walk on purpose, but it is not an egoic purpose. It's not that you are the healer. It's that you're the guide or the conduit or the vessel for the message that God is trying to speak. And then the last message he shared was about just leading from love and that no one should have the power over you for you to close your heart. Basically, his message was just about being summoned, that you are being called to God, you're being called to walk on purpose, you're being called to lead through love, and there's nothing that can stop you when you're truly in your heart, when you're truly connected to God. And that my understanding that also blew my mind was I've been deepening an intimate relationship with God, but what he spoke to was magnifying God. And I feel that that's exactly the season of life that I'm in, is a magnification magnifying my relationship with God, magnifying the light, magnifying collective consciousness, magnifying love. So I felt like this whole thing came together in a really beautiful way where I felt like there was still more. Like I was still desiring more God today. And then I clicked on this, and it was Michael Beckwith's birthday, and he had such a powerful message, and the music was just so powerful, and they were celebrating him, and I just felt this gratitude and love for mentors, guides, conduits for spiritual healing, spiritual messages, and making this world a better place. So yeah, I'm really figuring out what resonates with me. And then I've been having really powerful conversations with friends. I just had one with a really amazing man at the pool, and it's so cool. Anyways, this is longer than I thought, and this message was not supposed to be the one that came through, but I just follow what I'm supposed to do, and I was guided to watch the 11:30 service for Agape Spiritual Center. So, all right, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.